Hello, everybody, and good evening. Thank you very much for taking the time out after a very long day at work, I'm sure, to attend the Digital Dentistry webinar presented by Ian Buckle. My name is David Fraser. I'm the product manager at Gileo for the Dental iLearn platform. In the background, we've got Mary Jones and Tony Harper, who will be our tech gurus, who will be making sure the webinar is running properly. Just before we start, I've got a wee quick iLearn update for you, some really good news. Over the next few weeks, we are going to be launching our new iLearn 2.0 platform. So all your existing members will be migrated over, kind of starting from the end of October through November into December, and you'll be receiving some comms around that soon. We've all been working hard at Gilly over the last few months, sort of updating, rewriting, improving all 232 courses. So you'll notice a big difference. And the new platform will actually feature a sort of new, clean and modern user interface and a really slick, smoother user experience. I've got some housekeeping quickly to go through as well. At the end of the webinar today, over the next couple of days, you'll receive an email with a wee quiz that you need to complete if you want to get your 60 minutes verifiable CPD and the accompanying certificate. There'll also be some polls tonight that Ian will pop up. So if you'd be good enough to answer those questions and give us some feedback, we'd mightily appreciate that. And finally, to the right of the screen, on the right of the screen, you'll notice several tabs. There's a small Q&A one. So please feel free to submit your questions that Ian has kindly agreed to go through at the end. So any sort of burning questions around digital dentistry, please pop them in there and we'll get these sorted at the end. Now, actually onto the digital dentistry webinar now. We're really, really excited and delighted to have Ian Buckle presenting tonight. I'm sure many of you have met Ian in person over the years at one of his courses or webinars. He's been practicing for over 30 years now, specialising in reconstructive aesthetic and implant dentistry. He also designs and teaches hands-on courses and has lectured throughout the UK and mainland Europe. I don't know where he gets the time. He's just been telling me he's still working many days a week and travelling and lecturing. I really don't know where you get the time in. But having worked in practice myself for many years prior to coming to Gilly, I'm really excited to hear about digital dentistry. It's such a kind of topical subject, and the modern world, technologies are changing so fast. So really, really looking forward to it. So really hand over to you, Ian, and let you do your stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. Let's see if we can share this screen, and let me get started off. Okay. Oh, we don't want that one. Here we are. This is the one that we want. Just tell me that you can see that, okay, David?
Perfectly. That's perfect.
Okay. All right. So good evening, everyone. We do appreciate you taking some time out after a busy day. Normally I could say I've been in the surgery today, but I've had some other chores to do today, so I actually haven't. Like David said, I do still work in the clinic. Definitely Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 till 5:30. So I tend to have the same problems that you do, patients and staff and running the practice. And then at the weekend times, often I'm teaching courses, and I like the mix of that. You know, where David says, where do you find the time? It is trying to strike a balance between those. But I think the day I stop doing clinical dentistry is probably the day that I'll have to stop teaching, because I'm not smart enough to tell you all sorts of stuff. I just have to tell you what it is that I do every day and see if that's any use to you. So what we're going to talk about tonight is digital dentistry, and particularly with a reference to the general practice and also the team as well. I am extremely fortunate in my practice that I have some great team members, assistants, etc., that really, when I say I do this, I actually mean that they do it most of the time, and I just take the credit for it. So, but I'm very lucky for that. And I think also from a practice perspective, getting your team members involved in this stuff is not only going to help you be productive in what you do, but is also going to make their jobs much more exciting and hopefully gives room for progression within the practice. So let's move on. A couple of little disclosures first. I mean, people, sometimes you see digital is the domain of young people. Some of you may know I am not so young anymore, but I have got a lot of experience in this, and I also have a lot of curiosity. I've been around digital for a long time. We actually had a CEREC scanner when I was a student, which was pre-1985 before it went into production. So I've been around digital for a long time. Back in those days, it seemed like a great idea, but just didn't work so well. And it's amazing now to see where we are today. This is actually a slightly old photograph here as well. I still do have a CEREC Blue Cam, which I haven't used in some time. I've got a Trios 4 now rather than this one. But we'd like to try out lots of other digital scanners. We try and be more digital than related to one brand or the other. But that's what I'm doing all day, every day. We used to have a small lab here where we made a lot of plaster models, both for the practice and for the courses. And I closed that down about 4 years ago. And now everything that we do is completely digital here. So my first question for you all, which is always exciting for me, is have you got an intraoral scanner? And it's a very simple answer, yes or no. So I'll be interested to see what your answers are. It's intriguing when I am fortunate to go and speak in Denmark, obviously the home of Trios, and the market penetration there is something like 35% maybe, whereas over here it seems to be somewhat less. So let me know how that is. Now I actually can't see the answers on here, David. I don't know if you can help me with that, or maybe Mary, maybe even just pipe up with what the answer to that poll is at some point.
Do you have the answer to that poll, Mary?
Yes, David, if you go to the right hand side and click on polls,
yes,
you'll be able to see the answers. Can you see it? Or I can tell you.
You just tell that I can't see the answer. Sorry, Mary.
All right. We have yes at 56% and no at 44%. So the majority, small majority, is yes.
Okay, so that's cool. So that could be because we've hopefully attracted people who are already using them, or it could be that the UK is more than catching up with the sort of European use of scanners. So that's good news. So, because people would say to me, well, what is it you can't do without in your practicing? And obviously the first thing I would say is my assistants, for two reasons. One, because it's true, and secondly, because I'm frightened of them. The second thing I would usually say would be my camera, but now I would really hate to be without my scanner. And I was thinking, why is that? And I looked at my appointment book the other day, and really I'm using my scanner all day, every day to do all sorts of things. So we use it in the examination process, which we'll show you. We use it for gathering our records, just basic records, and also for treatment planning. We make a lot of splints. I'll show you a little bit of an outline on how to on making splints. That's really revolutionized the way I'm doing things in the clinic with that. I mean, I was brought up making acrylic splints on plaster models with water baths and all sorts of horrible things. And now being able to design, print, and deliver a splint probably in just over a couple of hours is really incredible. We use it for all our restorative needs. We mill in-house crowns, and we also mill and print on inlays and onlays. We use it for orthodontic purposes. I'm sure many of you are working with Clear Correct or Invisalign or any of those companies as well, plus many other options. For implants, it makes life so much easier rather than trying to take impressions, difficult impressions of with an open tray or closed tray. Now we can just scan a scan body, makes it real easy. It also improves the planning part of implants tremendously. And then one thing which I'll be honest, I don't do a great deal of, but I've done a couple now, is dentures. And certainly from a copy denture technique, digital is really becoming fabulous for being able to do that. And so one of the reasons why I mention all these things is, first of all, to let you know how that fits into my practice, but also a lot of times people buy a scanner and maybe they buy it to do Invisalign, or they buy it because they do implants, when actually they could be using it for so many other things in the practice today. And then not only will you get a good return on your investment, but also I think patients will really start to see what you're doing, start to talk about what it is, and it really elevates your profile in the community as well. So this I don't like to talk too much about what we do, but this is where I work. It's a converted barn in a little village called Thornton Hough on the Wirral, just over the way from Liverpool, my hometown. And as I say, I spend 3-4 days a week working in the clinic there. And then probably at least 2 weeks out of 4, I'm teaching for a couple of days a week as well, which is great fun. But just trying to share some of the things that I've learned over these 40 years, and trying to give you the benefits of my failures, perhaps, and hopefully a few successes as well. So when we think about digital, we often think a lot about intraoral scanners, and we shouldn't really forget about some of the very basic things like digital photography and digital x-rays, both of which have been a major benefit in my practice and helped tremendously. And much as I praised my Danish friends a little while ago for being the embracers of intraoral scanners, I asked the question last week with about 60 delegates, and probably less than 10% were taking photographs on a regular basis. We take photographs all the time. We take them as a record of how the patient is today. We take them so the patient can see what we see, because very often they just don't understand what's going on in their mouth. So it's a great way of being able to visualize that. And the cool thing about it being digital is it can be on the screen straight away. And we also use the photographs for treatment planning as a very important part of our 2D visualization process. Radiographs, much the same. I know we're all busy as dentists, but dentists often say to me, well, I don't get to do this sort of work. My patients don't say yes. Well, a lot of the time they don't say yes because we haven't taken the time to show them what's going on in their mouths. So, I just wanted to spend a few minutes to say, these things, they might be less expensive and less innovative than intraoral scanners and some of the other things we'll talk about, but I think they are the cornerstone of success and the cornerstone to you be able to do more in your practice. So intraoral scanning, I'm sure, it sounds like more than half of you are very familiar with it. I mean, it's really come on leaps and bounds. Some of the latest scanners are scanning in an arch in less than a minute, maybe even half a minute. But we can scan both arches in just a few minutes with great accuracy, great success, great comfort for the patient. It also is a great practice builder because patients are intrigued by being able to see their models on the screen. It's also another way of being able to show them. You can see someone like James here, and you can see the wear on his teeth as we're going round, and we can put these up on the screen later, and we can talk to him, take him on a tour of his mouth, and help him understand what's going on. So really cool when I be able to do things. So many benefits of digital impressions, as well as not having putties and things in there. Another benefit is that if we do miss a little bit, like we've got a problem with this molar here, can always go back in there later and add on. So it's a great way of really starting to see how things are. We can also use those scans for something that's called patient monitoring. And patient monitoring allows us to take sequential scans over time, and then we can use them for comparisons. So here I'm comparing, we are comparing a orthodontic movement to see where we've moved the tooth to. We can also use it for monitoring tooth wear, monitoring recession, and it's a very powerful tool to share with the patients, because oftentimes when we say to patients, oh, well, you've got tooth wear, and they're saying, well, is it getting worse? The computer will actually tell you how much worse it's getting and how much time it's taken to get that way, which is not only a great record keeping tool, it's also a great way that means that we've had good discussions with the patients, and it's also a great patient engagement tool as well. We can use it to monitor the eruption of teeth, and it's quite cool to see how teeth develop using these sequential scans. So you can use it for all sorts of things, and we've even had situations where we've had scans of patients, and then maybe they've had an unfortunate accident and broken a front tooth, and we're able to make a piece that we can just glue onto that front tooth because we have scans on file of the patient. So I think 3D models and having this sort of information on hand is tremendously useful. I also have sheds and buildings full of my patients' models from years of doing restorative dentistry. it's so much better to have everything just on a computer. It makes my life so much easier. So my next question, because we're going to talk about printing next, is how many of you have a 3D printer? How many of you involved in 3D printing? Because this, again, is really something that has made a massive change in our practice, particularly with splints and models and aligners. So maybe if you can answer that, and then David, if you could just shout out with or Mary when you get that answer through, I'd be very happy to hear that.
So sorry, Ian, we're currently at 8% yes, 92% no.
92. So that would seem
so
quite
84.
different.
We're down to 84% no now. So
84% no. So it's still quite a lot of people that really aren't engaging with this. And I really think that this is, people say, well, this is the future. I don't think it's the future. I think it's now. We have, just out of interest for you, we actually have 3 printers in the practice, 2 of which I use. One is an Asiga, one is a Sprint Ray. They're both pretty economical and very, very user-friendly. But again, we're making use of those printers all day, every day. It allows us to serve our patients quicker, more efficiently. And it also allows us to provide splints, crowns, and lots of other things for a very economical price. I mean, obviously, we need to invest up front, but then we save a lot of money later on. So splints has been a massive thing for me. I don't know how many of you have ever made a splint yourself, particularly if you've made it out of acrylic on an articulator and then put it in a hot water and pressure bath with all the problems that you have with that. Now we can take a scan of a patient. Either we can design it ourselves. I use 3Splint Studio, or you can have it designed by a lab or some third-party software. And then if you have a printer, then you can print this yourself. And literally, as I say, we can get this done in just a couple of hours now, which really aids the turnaround of what it is I'm trying to do tremendously. It pleases the patients a great deal. It also puts the money in our pockets very quickly as well, which is nice. So when I first started doing this, I would scan the patient. I would actually send the scans to my colleague in Romania who would use Exocad. She would very kindly design the splint for me and send me the STL files. And then we would print the splint ourselves. This is a material called Key Splint Soft, and this is a B splint. Obviously, you can make any sort of splint that you would like. And I have to say, the fit of these splints has been the best I've ever had. And that's, I like to think that I'm reasonably good at doing what it is that I do. This is a little retainer that we made on, this is just me being ham-fisted as usual, but this is a little retainer we made on a printed model. So this is what we call a dual B splint, which is great for a Bruxer. But we can turn those things out in just a couple of hours for not a lot of money and really serve our patients well. So that's proved a tremendous advantage. And you can design however you like your splints to be. This is not a splint lecture. So, but however you like them to be, you can design them that way. We are printing a lot of crowns, temporary crowns, inlays, onlays, all those things now. We have materials which are permanent materials. We've used also temporary materials that have been around for quite some time. And because of the way printing happens, I mean, in this situation, we discovered, it wasn't for one patient, but we could print 84 crowns on the platform, depending on the size of the platform, probably in just over 30 minutes, which is tremendous, really. I mean, we also do a lot of milling, but often, I mean, we've got a typical sort of practice mill, and we're only able to mill one little thing at a time. So being able to do multiple restorations is fabulous. I mean, I've tried this on some of my bigger cases where we've actually had the lab make the restorations, and then they send me the STL files, and we've printed the crowns, and the fits that we're getting from this can be fabulous. So lots of different materials out there. If anyone's got any questions, I'd be glad to answer those later. But, you know, another great thing that we can use printing for, and these little fellas cost about £3 each to make. So that's a pretty significant investment. And as I say, you can either design them yourself. You can have a lab design them. A lot of labs now are quite happy to do that. And also as well now, using artificial intelligence, a lot of the stuff can be done with artificial intelligence, and maybe you just tweak it and then print it yourself for, again, a very economical fee. We also print, just to show you some other things, we print some surgical guides. I don't do so many of those. We print models. We don't print so many models these days. Again, used to be the mainstay of what we did. I was going to say the curse of my life, but I best say the mainstay in making plaster models and mounting them with a face bow and a bite registration. Now, what used to take me best part of a day to do, I can mount those models on a virtual articulator in 2 or 3 minutes. This is the printer that you can see here is a sprint rate. As I say, we also have an Asiga, which is excellent. We don't print so many models. The models that we do print, we tend to print for aligners because we do some of those ourselves. We print them for bleaching trays and also sort of like Essex retainers as well. But again, we can print those models very efficiently and very quickly. One of the latest things that we've gotten involved in, and they're getting better and better all the time, is printed dentures. And like I say, particularly if the patient has a set of dentures that they are happy and comfortable with, what you can do is you can actually reline that, take a reline impression in the denture, scan the fitting surface, scan the entire surface, and literally make a digital copy of them, maybe just improving the bite or the arrangement a little bit. I think this is going to make a tremendous difference in the production of dentures going forward. Some of the fits that I've had, I'm not the keenest denture maker these days, I must admit, but some of the fits I've had with these are almost enticing me back into that field. So my next question, and I'm sorry to go a little bit at breakneck speed, but I wanted to try and give you a really good overview of what we're using things in the practice. And this question is more intriguing to me than anything else. I'm not going to present any research that shows either way or the other, but I'm just thinking, how many of you think that digital is more accurate, less accurate, or much the same as analog? I'd just be intrigued to know what that is. I mean, my take on it while you're answering those questions is everyone loves to quote the inaccuracies of digital, but they tend not to quote the inaccuracies of analog. And when we take an impression, it's a little inaccurate. When we cast a model, it's a little inaccurate. When we make the crown on the model, it's a little inaccurate. If we take a scan, it's pretty accurate to start off with. And the secret then is really to stay in the digital world. You know, the ones that I see that are having accuracy issues, it's because they go from the digital world back to the analog world, back to the digital world, and back to the analog world again. I think the best way is to take a completely digital workflow, and that way you will get the most accuracy, because we're not encouraging all those degrees of inaccuracy that creep in. What was the summation of that for me?
Yeah, overwhelmingly for more, 70%,
cool.
less,
Okay.
8%, about the same, 21%.
Okay, that's interesting, because certainly the idea that I would get would be there was an idea out there, I think probably like most new things, you know, first of all, it's derided, secondly, it's accepted, and then it becomes the overwhelming truth. Mm-hmm. So it would appear that we are getting more towards the overwhelming truth than anything else. But the accuracy that I have experienced, and there is some research out there, which is not the focus of this webinar tonight, would tend to indicate that digital is getting to be more accurate these days. I think because it never leaves the screen, or never leaves the computer, that's where the accuracy really starts to creep in as well. So one of the other things that we do is we like to use, we can use it a lot for patient engagement. Again, you know, cool dentistry doesn't just happen. We have to make it happen. And a lot of the time we just don't take the time to explain to our patients what's available. And one of the things that we like to do is we can use digital to engage with our patients. And if they've got aesthetic needs, then we can engage with 2D smile design and maybe an additive mock-up design. If it's a a functional engagement in that they've maybe got joint issues or maybe bite issues, then that's where being able to make a really well-fitting, well-made splint quickly and efficiently comes in. Because if you can solve the patient's problems quickly and easily with a splint, then we're going to get a great solution. They're also going to be very keen for you to go ahead and do what they need going forward. So if we take someone like Ray, and Ray has got he's just a typical older guy, some broken teeth, some worn down teeth, some very worn lower teeth. And really he was interested in how I could help him with his lower teeth, but he also wanted the top teeth to look better. So we can see here, hopefully we could agree that he has a little bit of wear on his teeth, particularly on those lowers. And it might be quite daunting to many of you about how we can deal with that. And this is where, one of the things I want to say to you is digital is a great tool. My great mentor, Peter Dawson, who loved to know everything about all the current technology, etc. Even in his later years, was very, very curious about what we were doing. One of the things he did say to me was, well, Ian, I think digital is great, but it probably could get you into trouble quicker. And the reason why he said that was because it's just a tool. You also need knowledge. And when you deal with a case like Ray, where he's got some occlusal issues, you need to understand how to deal with those occlusal issues. Digital is not the solution for that. Knowledge is the solution for that. And then the tools that we use just make our lives so much easier. So just talking about Ray and trying to share with him what the possibilities of what it is that we could do. One of the things that we can do is a real simple 2D smile. Depending on what you think about it, but Ray is an older gentleman like myself. He's Welsh, so that's usually got dark brown teeth. So that's probably racist. I'm sorry about that. I should have said Scottish for David anyway. I live just around the corner from Wales. That's why we're always rude to our close neighbours, you see. But he wanted them to look a little bit nicer, but also, like many people, and particularly gentlemen of a certain age, well, what is it going to look like? So using 2D smile design, this is Smile Design from 3Shape. There are lots of other programs like Smile Designer Pro, obviously like DSD, all those sort of things. But we have this here, and we are able to show someone in less than 5 minutes an approximation of what it could look like. And it really starts that conversation about how they'd like to move forward. Now, some of you might know that I'm a big functional guy, that I really like occlusion and all those things. And you might be thinking, well, this is rather shallow and frivolous. But people buy what they want, not what they need. So we need to understand what it is that they want. And if they're looking for a nice looking smile, that's a great place to start. And then then our job is to build the function in that makes it work. And the cool thing is that if we build that function in, then these restorations are going to last and be healthy for a long time, which is what we really like. So in Ray's case, he really liked what we were looking for. So we decided to do an additive mock-up. We scanned him. We sent that to the lab. I gave them some information about where I wanted the incised ledges to be on the upper and the lower, and the vertical dimension that we wanted to work at. And you can do this yourself. You can learn how to do this 3D smile design, a 3D additive mock-up if you wanted to. Again, it's really what you think about it. I mean, I think our most precious asset is the time that we have. And I have this thing which is we're happiest doing the things that we're good at, that we get paid for, and that we enjoy doing. So I like doing clinical dentistry. That's why I want to be there. And I have some great technician friends that with the right instruction can really do this much quicker and probably much better than I do. If you like that sort of stuff, it's not too difficult to learn. But the other cool thing about digital is this is my dear friend Shemek from Cosmodent in Sweden, one of the labs that I work with. But we can share these videos, and I can look at the work and comment and maybe make changes, and we can do that over the internet, and he can do that live for me while I'm watching. And then once it's done, he can just send me the STLs files, and we will print them. We make our stents, and from there we can go forward and place our additive mockup. So my last little question for this is, have you ever used a trial smile, an additive mockup? I'd be intrigued to know how many people are doing those sort of things in their practice, because for me, this, when we look about patient engagement, this is one of the coolest things that we do to get, I was going to say, to get people to say yes, to help people to say yes. Because I think a lot of the time we need to realize that people don't really understand the possibilities, the great things that we can do in dentistry these days. I think sometimes we don't realize the possibilities of what we can do. But once we do, hopefully we can share those. And it's very nice in a 2D. That's 2D is great because it's inexpensive and quick. 3D, I think we can start to charge a little bit of a fee for, but it's still pretty expensive and non-invasive, and we can show them what it is it's looked like. One of the things that, again, I've been doing this for many years, and when DSD first came out, I thought, well, that's just rehashing something old. Once I got over the fact that I was a bit miffed about it, I thought actually using those trial smiles not only gives us a preview about how those smiles can be, it also gives us the upper incisal edge, which is really, really important for lots of reasons. The lower incisal edge, which is going to guide our function. And then it also gives us our vertical dimension. So once we have those things in place, we really have everything in place for a functional, aesthetic, and healthy success. David, what was the upshot on that?
Okay, we're at yes 31%, no 69%. Can I just remind people, any questions for Ian, just pop them in the Q&A section.
So, yeah, so it seems like that is maybe something that some of you are doing, but there's a lot of you out there that we could encourage to maybe get involved in some of that. And I say digital, what we used to do, we'd have to take impressions, we'd send it to the lab, then they would do the mock-up, then they would send it back to us, and we'd be waiting 2 weeks or so. Now, I mean, actually, we've done this live. I can show you a case before I show you a case that we did live for you and give you an idea about the timeline with that. This is Ray. So this is the additive mock-up over his top teeth. This is how the bottom teeth looked. So you can see now we have the upper incisal edge, we have the lower incisal edge. If we got these teeth to come together, we would have the vertical dimension. We would see what we need to do with the back teeth to make those work properly. And we can really develop a great treatment plan from here. This is Ray's last hygiene appointment, which was approximately, it was July, where were we up to? So it was about 3 months ago. And you can see, I mean, these are just direct composites that I did here. So a lot of my patients, they have a thing called buccal syndrome. We do have some patients who have lots of money, but I also have lots of patients who have lots of problems and not so much money. And so, sometimes those things are very simply done in composite. And this is just some single layer of composite. And this is about 3-4 years down the line, not a huge amount of time. But you might look at that and go, well, how did you add the composite on and get that to stick with those little short peggies that were there before? Well, it could be because of my phenomenal bonding. I don't think that's the way it is. But actually, the reason the teeth have stayed there is because we got the occlusion right. If you noticed on the previous one, the reason he came to me was because they always say my normal dentist, which I don't know what that makes me. But my normal dentist keeps putting bits of filling on and they keep getting knocked off. And that's Einstein's first theory of insanity, which is keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. So we need to change the mechanics of the system. And if we change the mechanics of the system, then we can change the way things work. And suddenly some of these things will stay there for ages. On some of these teeth, there's probably 6 millimeters, maybe more of composite, just bonded to not even the best substrate in the world, but it's staying there because the mechanics are correct. As far as the digital aspects are concerned, as I say, I mean, being able to communicate with the patient about what's able to do and then get their engagement so that they move forward is really where digital has helped me a lot with this. So there's Ray at the end. And this is this is the case that I wanted to show you just quickly that we did live. So we took a couple of quick pictures. We did a little smile design. This is the smile design that we did. And then from that 2D smile design, we would make a 3D smile design. This is the stent that we use to apply the, to make the model. And then from that model, we can do our additive mock-up. So we just use a little bit of temporary crown material in here, depending on how much you need. Looks like I'm putting a bit too much in there. And we just put that over the patient's teeth, and you tell the patient, well, this is going to be, I would say, a little Heath Robinson. You're going to see some of the changes, but you're still going to see your teeth showing through. So in Chris's case here, we would still see those white marks on the front teeth because we're not changing those at the moment. And it gives the patient a real good chance to see how this is going. So a couple of minutes later, we can take this out. And if we pop that out, we can see this is the way their smile looks now, patient's new smile. And you know, this wasn't a major makeover, if you like, but there's two things that I'd like you to notice. One is the lack of flash that you have, which to me is about the accuracy of what it is that we're doing these days, but also just the potential for the patient to see the way this is, for us all to understand about what's needed to create that smile for the patient, if that's what it is that they're looking to achieve. And when you can do that in what amounts to about 3-4 minutes, it creates a real wow factor as well. We can print snap-on smiles, other things like that, but I've still found that this works really well when you give them the mirror and they can actually see the changes. You'll notice a scaler in my hand. That's first of all for taking the excess off, but it's about the only thing that I ever use a hand mirror for, because it's quite cool for them to be able to see the smile that you've just given them. But actually, there's nothing more evocative than giving them the mirror and then using the scaler to gently remove the temporaries. And I've actually had patients looking on the floor to see where their new smile has gone because they were so desperate to get it back. So this is the smile in place. This is before, and this is after. And in this case, in Chris's case, just some subtle changes, but some nice changes. A great way of communicating with the patient. A great way then of talking about the options that are available, whether we just do some aesthetic bonding, whether we do some veneers, do we want to change the front teeth, do you want to do some whitening first? But it really starts to open the conversation about what's available. And as I say, the key with the digital part here is that it really becomes efficient to do this now. The 2D smile design in just a few minutes, the additive mock-up is done really quickly and easily and very efficiently. And then getting the patient to say yes. I mean, this can be done in just 10 minutes. So, I mean, we mentioned a little bit about implants and how easy those things are. I mean, we could probably talk for hours and maybe days about how to combine CBCT scans and intraoral scans, and then really start to plan the process and then understand how to place the implants efficiently so that we can get great results straight away. For me, as a restorative dentist, this really is one of the things that makes a huge difference, is rather than trying to use an open or closed tray and then trying to get a good impression. Now I almost feel like a little bit of a cheat with these things, because I can scan the emergence profile. We just cut out the area that we're going to rescan. We screw in the scan body, which tells the computer where the implant is, and then I scan the scan body. We put the cover screw back on, and 3 weeks later, we screw the implant in, the implant crown in, and the job is good. And it makes all of our lives incredibly better for that. And again, the accuracy that I've had from those has been tremendous. One of the things that I've done over the years is, as I've migrated all of our things from analog to digital, is I have often run analog and digital side by side. And one of the things that certainly up to a couple of years ago people would debate is about whether it is good and able to take full arch scans. And there's certainly some tips and tricks that you need to be able to do it efficiently. But this is one that I did in the analog world and also in the digital world. And again, it's not my main area of expertise. We do some, maybe one a month or so. But what I'm finding is that digital is working just as good as analog ever did. We can also use, again, in the realms of patient engagement. Again, this is a simple little program, but a lot of our patients come in with misaligned teeth, and they're maybe interested in how their teeth would look when they're aligned. Again, this is a little 3Shape program called Treatment Simulator. There are lots of other things that's available. You can, some of the companies now are doing free setups for you as well. Clear, I don't know who they are, but they will do a setup for you so the patient can see. But this is actually using artificial intelligence, where we just scan the patient, press the button, and say, "Would you like to see what your teeth would look like straight?" And when I first got this and I was asked to give it a little try, I have to say that I was very reticent about it, because I just thought, who's going to be interested in that? I've been amazed how patients go, "Wow, that's amazing. Yes, I'd be keen to find out what comes next and where we can go with this." So I think it's a very, very cool way, again, of getting that patient engagement. I'm sure many of you would be aware about digital setups with orthodontics. I'm sure some of you, like I have done some Kessling setups over the years, sorting teeth out, moving them around. It was a right nuisance to do all those things. Now, and this is a pretty old case, but now we are able to show the patient really quickly about what might be possible. So I want to sort of, we talked a lot about things that we can do, and pretty much all of my job is about patient care. That's my main concern. And even in the teaching, the main thing is that when I'm teaching people, I really want them to get better so that they can help patients. I think that would be a very, very cool thing to do. So if you look at someone like Laura here, she came in with pretty crooked teeth. She's also a very nice Welsh person, and she wanted me to do veneers on her teeth. Because we'd done some veneers for her auntie who was considerably older, and she was getting married in 10 months' time. And she wanted a beautiful smile for her wedding. And usually what I say to these people is, say, Laura, we want you to have a nice smile for your wedding. We also want you to have a nice smile for your next wedding as well. I'm at the stage of my career where I can get away with things like that, because I get struck off. There's plenty of sport on the television these days. So, but she was not going to go with traditional bases. It's a long story, but my dental assistant was able to say, "Well, have you seen these clear braces? Maybe we could help you with that." And, we were able to do a little clean check and show her what was possible. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, are familiar with these things. Again, these are a great thing, not just as a patient engagement tool, but also as a planning tool. And so within 7-8 months, we were able to get the teeth pretty straight. It certainly wasn't a perfect result, but within the time frame that she allowed me, we were able to get to this position and get her looking pretty good for her wedding without having to cut up a lot of teeth. There are other things that I would have liked to have done as well in the orthodontic part. I would also like to have bleached her teeth, but she didn't want that. She was just happy that they were so much straighter. But this was a patient that if we hadn't have shared those ideas with her, that either maybe she wouldn't have gone ahead with treatment, or more likely she would have gone to someone, maybe gone got some turkey teeth or whatever, and these young teeth would have been destroyed because we didn't use technology to show her the possibilities of what it is that we could do. If you like orthodontics and you like moving teeth yourself and you want to get more involved, again, there are programs out there where you are able to do all your own setups and then print the models and make aligners. I don't think it will be too long before actually we are able to print the aligners themselves. There's more and more materials coming out which have got possibilities for doing that. But this is a very cool, again, I've also found it extremely educational. I mean, we used to do this in wax and move the teeth on a model. But I found this to be a really cool and educational way of learning what it is that I had to do as well as being able to make the aligners for the patients, which in a smaller treatment, I don't like. I do have a couple of pals who print all their models and do everything themselves. On the smaller cases, I don't mind doing a few models. On the bigger cases, I tend to work with one of the labs and let them do the heavy lifting with that. But it's out there if you want to do it. This is for some of my friends at IAS, and you can actually use it to do our digitally placed indirect brackets if that's something that you are interested in. We can even use it for, we talked about full dentures, but we can also use it to design and then eventually make, whether we print or mill, chrome dentures or even acrylic dentures. So everything is possible these days in the digital world. You know, I've tried to talk to you about most of the things that we do every day in our practice, trying to show you what it is that you could do. I'm not saying that you couldn't do this, but I also wanted to show you some of the crazy things perhaps that we get up to and what digital is able to do now. This is a thing called Modjaw, which is basically a jaw tracking device. You can see Paul has the sensors on his head and on his teeth. We've put his scans in here, and we can actually then see how the teeth relate, how the patient chews. We can see the paths of the condyles. We can work out all sorts of crazy things from here. We can combine this with CBCT scans and face scans and really start to create our virtual patient, which makes treatment planning amazing. And these aren't things of the future. These are things that are happening now. And so the reason why I wanted to sort of throw this in a little bit more towards the end of the conversation that we're having is to say these are things that's out there. And if you can do this sort of crazy stuff, then maybe making crowns and a few aligners and maybe some dentures is not that difficult for digital these days. Now, if you like, some of you will also know that I have a background in digital dentistry and in functional dentistry and all those things. And we can use the photos and we can use face scans, and we can do mounting really, really quickly and very, very efficiently on a virtual articulator. I'm currently in the process of doing some little research on this to prove its validity, but we are finding superb, accurate results with this. If we had more time, I'd show you this case, which is actually a post-ortho case where we can actually measure the amount of equilibration that we need. And as it turned out, we actually had a little more equilibration to do than we'd like. So as a result of that, we are choosing to do some very, very precise orthodontic aligners to move the teeth back into the right place. With that said, and we're coming up to about 10 to, so I wanted to leave about 10 minutes at the end for any questions if we have them. What I would like to say to you is, like I mentioned before, technology is a great servant but a dangerous master. So these are just tools that we have. You need knowledge and ability, and I think the most important thing to invest in is yourself and in the knowledge that you have. Technology will never save us. But if you have that knowledge, then you can use these beautiful tools that we have today. I mean, I've been in practice now since 1985, so that's a while. And I come to work looking forward to think of all the crazy things that I can use this technology for and how we can make it more predictable, more efficient, and more productive every day.